I was part of SDS and Students for Free Speech at the University of Illinois, and in 1967 we found out that a Dow Chemical Company recruiter was coming to recruit future employees for Dow Chemical who manufactured napalm. We said we can't allow a recruiter for it's like someone in Germany recruiting for the ovens or something. We can't allow napalm recruiter come to the campus. So we organized a sit-in where we accompanied him to where he was supposed to be interviewing potential employees. And it was in the end of October '67, and there were between 200 and 250 of us who went to the room where he was supposed to be interviewing, sat down, very peaceful 5-6 hour sit-in. People were coming and going. We told the recruiter, he said, "You aren't a prisoner, you're free to come and go. You can't recruit, we're going to follow you wherever you go. And you can go to the bathroom. We'll bring you some food if you want some food, but we won't allow you to recruit anyone here." And so that ended peacefully. We all dispersed and everything. And shortly thereafter, the penalty phase started, where they picked out a few students, not all of us, but a few students to charge for the offenses. Vic and Vern were charged, as there were 4 grad students and 7 of us undergraduates. They picked the only 2 undergraduates who were military veterans. We had both been in the Air Force. And at that point, the FBI really didn't want to hear veterans speaking out against the war effort. So they really wanted to get rid of us. So they took us before, there's 2 different subcommittees on discipline. The grad students went to the grad student disciplinary committee. Their punishment was that they had a letter placed in their file that you were bad boys, you shouldn't be doing that, anything else. For the 7 undergraduates, they called us in one by one. There was a subcommittee A on student discipline. There were 3 students and 6 professors, I believe. I'm not certain of the actual jury. We walked in, and the first thing they said was, "We aren't here to find out whether you're guilty or innocent. You're guilty or you wouldn't have been charged. We're only here to determine your punishment." So one of the other Air Force veteran, a friend of mine, started quoting from the Declaration of Independence without identifying the document. When in the course of human events, blah, 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 liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He was interrupted, and one of the professors on the disciplinary committee says, "That sounds like a bunch of Marxist hogwash to me." I had a professor turn to me and say, "You're part of the communist conspiracy to overtake American education, aren't you?" So that it was clear what the punishment was going to be. As a result of that, no decision had been reached yet, but all the other people who had participated went up and voluntarily signed, "Well, you can't just charge them. We were guilty. We participated also." Meanwhile, then, the student committee issued their decision and expelled all 7 of us undergraduate students, kicked us out of the university. We appealed, and they let us back in on probation, but my probation was I could not go to any more demonstrations on campus. And I said, "Well, fine, if America agrees to stop killing Vietnamese, I'll stop protesting. Otherwise, I'm going to continue." The other condition was I couldn't have a car in Champaign County. I couldn't have a registered car and drive a car on campus. And the third condition was I had to go see a counselor at Student Services, because obviously something was wrong with me. So I walk into, at that point I hadn't decided to leave. I wasn't certain if I was going to stay and do that or go elsewhere. Eventually I got into another college and went away, but I went to the counselor. We introduced ourselves, sat down, And after introductions, he turns to me and says, "Why do you hate your father so much?" And I thought, why does that have anything to do with anything? So that's when I finally knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't stop. I knew if I stayed and there were protests, I would be there and expelled then. I couldn't go back to that counselor and listen to more about why I hated my father. In the car, I didn't care. I had a bicycle, so I didn't care if I had a car or not. So, and they announced the last thing was, this goes back a way, when they announced the expulsions of the 7 students. They announced it in November 23rd, the afternoon before Thanksgiving break. So there wouldn't be any demonstrations after we were all kicked out. And as a result of that, I had been working with campus ministers on anti-war protests, a lot of professors. I was working with a lot of different organizations and everything, and they all came to my defense and were very friendly, very helpful. And meanwhile, like I said, I got admitted on the East Coast. I had never traveled to the East Coast or West Coast. I'd never been really out of the Midwest, except when I was in the military. I'd been in Morocco and then in Georgia. So to go to the East Coast of Massachusetts and see if life was different there, I went.